And we have 4 outstanding speakers from the Coca-Cola Company, YKK Corporation of America, M-Style Marketing, and Sperry IP Law. I would like to invite Dean Cashwake and Ms. Mandy Brooks to introduce their speakers. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks so much, May, and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of SAUPO. We're delighted to be here, and it's great to see everyone today. We have a wonderful panel. I found, in my research for this panel today, I found a survey that was done by Freedom International, where they went out and interviewed global marketing executives and directors and asked them, what are the key challenges that you are dealing with when you deal with global marketing and branding? And so I very briefly wanted to run through these 7 challenges that were identified by the survey, and again, I'll do this very, very quickly. The first one deals with internal coordination of marketing activities. It's all about execution. Today we have vast improved systems and communication technology, but we also have higher expectation for relevant, localized execution. Internal coordination of these complex campaigns across business units can be very, very challenging. Number 2, how do we reach customers in a meaningful way? Adapting an idea to suit different cultures and outlooks while remaining true to the key message behind the campaign remains a major challenge. Number 3, how do we measure, report, learn, and improve? So it's all about continuous improvement, but it's also about return on investment. And when we're dealing with different brand strategies and marketing strategies across a global context, how do we make sure that that ROI is being delivered? Number 4, how do we handle the creative development process? A key theme in the survey dealt around the idea that most often we have to tap into local talent, even though we're trying to send a more global message. So how do we use the creative assets of the local community to help develop our brand? Number 6, the digital and social marketing technology that is available today. Global marketing executives want to know how to integrate social media into a wider campaign. Reliable reporting about the impact of social media on awareness and sales, though, remains elusive and challenging due to the amount of data that's available. And finally, the role of technology in campaign creation and implementation. There's a tremendous risk of letting technology lead the way. Never a good idea to let the technology drive, while it should really be an enabler of creative ideas. So there's a need to know how to deliver faultless, personalized advertising at a scale that is worldwide, but still able to be tracked and evaluated. If I had to summarize, you can see that there are issues of complexity, the issues of how to best use technology, but also how do we measure the impact that we're having? How do we engage in continuous improvement? And with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague, again, my Assistant Dean of Marketing Strategy in the Coles College of Business at Kennesaw State, Mandy Brooks, and Mandy will introduce each of our panelists. Thank you.
The presentation. First, we have Brad Taylor, who is the Vice President for Sales and Marketing for Coca-Cola North America Group, the Coca-Cola Company. He leads a team of professionals to configure and execute winning strategies to grow revenue and profits among retailers in the travel, college and university, business and industry, healthcare, and other channels where the company's beverages are bought and consumed one at a time. At the Coca-Cola Company, he has held various sales and marketing positions, including leading the company's global partnership with the Walt Disney Company and other entertainment partners. Next, we have Jessica Cork. She is Vice President of Public Relations and Communications at YKK Corporation of America, the North and Central America subsidiary of YKK Corporation in Japan. Her responsibilities, among many, include managing global public relations and communications, website and social media accounts, corporate donations and community outreach programs, and many others, to name a few. M-Style Marketing. Founded in 2008, it is a leading strategy, marketing, and branding firm based in New York. SAUPO Marketing provides a unique combination of strategic consulting services teamed with award-winning creative for entertainment, sports, and consumer product properties. Robert is an expert in managing strategic platforms for a wide variety of Fortune 500 brands. He has worked in the strategy marketing and licensing space for 16 years and has touched some of the most prestigious brands and international companies. We have Marcy Sperry. Marcy is a seasoned intellectual property attorney who focuses her practice on trademark clearance and registration, trademark enforcement, and IP litigation. Marcy's trademark enforcement practice includes litigation in state and federal courts, as well as opposition and cancellation proceedings before the U.S. Trademark Trial and Appeal Boards. Her clients range from fashion, hotel, restaurants, hospitality, to biotechnology and professional services. In 2017, Marcy founded Sperry IP Law to provide her clients with a progressive boutique firm experience that offers customized IP legal services designed to achieve optimal results for each individual client.
I'm very honored to stand here in front of you representing over 90,000 Coca-Cola Company employees around the world and over 700,000 employees when you add in all of our bottling partners around the globe. So on behalf of all of them, welcome to Atlanta. We're glad you're here. I'm not going to call this a presentation necessarily because I don't have one, but I am going to just share with you some thoughts, some things that we're currently doing that really tie into the challenges that were just shared. And then I'm sure there will be some questions that I'll be happy to try my best to answer. So again, I've been at the Coca-Cola Company for 23 years, always right down the street here in downtown Atlanta. I've actually worked in my office building longer than any home I've ever lived in, which is kind of weird. But it's a great company. It's been very good to me, and again, I'm honored to stand here and represent Coca-Cola. So to get things started, I want to do some audience participation. So I'm gonna share a number, and I want anyone to kind of shout out what you think that number is. Fair enough? All right, so we're going to start with 1886. Any guesses? Exactly. That's when Coca-Cola was first introduced right down the street in downtown Atlanta at Jacob's Pharmacy by Dr. Pemberton. So 1886, over 135 years old. All right, next number, 200. I'm sorry? Products? Well, that's a good guess, but that's not the right guess. The right guess is countries. So Coca-Cola is sold in over 200 countries around the globe. There are only 2 where our products are not sold legally. Right? Cuba and North Korea, you have seen this presentation before. But that's right. All right, next number, 1.7 billion. Billion with a B. I'm sorry? I can't. How many products today? Servings per day. That's exactly right. Over 1.7 billion servings a day around the globe of Coca-Cola products. So we take great pride in that number. And the last one is 500. Calories? I'm pretty sure we don't have a beverage that has 500 calories. Coca-Cola has, or the 20-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola has 240, but I don't think we have one that has 500. The right description of 500 is number of brands that we have around the globe, and from those 500 brands come over 3,000 individual products, right? Now, that's a far cry from the one brand that started this whole thing back in 1886 And we had one and only brand for a very long time. But as the world has changed, as consumer needs have changed, we've had to introduce new brands, right? And so now over 500 around the globe. Japan is actually a very, very much of a hotbed for us from an innovation perspective. I think we may launch over 200 brands a year just in Japan alone. So we are constantly staying in touch with what consumer needs are. We have recently introduced a kind of a new mantra, if you will, for the Coca-Cola Company, which is all about beverages for life. So we are in the beverage business, and our mission is to create beverages that satisfy consumer needs throughout their entire life, right? So thanks for the participation in the numbers game. So quickly, just to share, so the mission of the Coca-Cola Company, and it's always been this, and I think it's safe to say it always will be this. Our mission is quite simple: to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, and to create value and make a difference in every community in which we operate. Now, kind of getting back to the topic of today, I think it's probably safe to say you guys are all familiar with our traditional marketing approaches. We've been doing that for a very long time. Some of you are old enough to remember back in 1978, the Hilltop commercial in Italy where we taught the world to sing and we bought the world a Coke. That's probably the best example of traditional marketing that we have used to build the brand globally. And so that's probably the best example. And over the years, we've migrated that. And the most recent global campaign that I hope you're aware of is Taste the Feeling, which is a global campaign supporting our Coca-Cola trademark brand, and that Coca-Cola trademark spans several variants, we call them. So Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, and Coca-Cola Life, those are all variants of Coca-Cola trademark brand. And our mission is we don't care which one of those you drink, as long as you're drinking something with Coca-Cola in it, that's fine by us. And that's the Taste the Feeling campaign. That is a global campaign that we have kind of altered on a market-by-market basis. Same basic idea, but using obviously local talent and paying respect to local culture. So that's kind of the traditional marketing. What you may not be so familiar with is kind of where we're going from a digital perspective. And I'll share first that today, the mobile screen, so your little smartphone screen, is the first screen that we think about when we're developing new marketing content. And the reason for that is that's where people go to most frequently, is that mobile device. So we've got to think about that screen first. You may not be aware that we have our very own social center down the street at our headquarters, which is a listening, analytics, and content generation facility staffed by 55 people that are constantly listening to social media around the globe and doing the analytics and providing feedback and input to our brand marketing teams and creating content that's going to resonate in all parts of the world. Hopefully you guys have heard about shareacoke.com. You might remember the bottles with names on it that has become kind of a global sensation. It's going to be year 4, I think, here in the U.S., where it's coming out again this summer. That's actually translated into a new e-commerce solution for our company. So you can now go to shareacoke.com and you can buy a glass bottle with your name on it, your family's name on it. You can do that. You can buy these bottles for graduations, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, etc. So I encourage you to look at shareacoke.com. And then Amazon is another recent partner for us, where you can now go onto Amazon and buy Coca-Cola products to have delivered to your home. So that's a big shift in our strategy. And then lastly, something I just saw, and I encourage you to go to Coca-Cola.com, and it's called Coca-Cola Journey, is really our website, which really looks and feels a whole lot like a magazine, but all kinds of information there. But I just saw this morning that we have just launched a Google-powered digital signage solution which engages shoppers in retail environments based on and sends them customized messages based on what the data that's on their smartphone. So very powerful stuff that we're doing to take us forward into the digital economy world. So I know my time's up. I'll be glad to answer any questions later on, but thank you for listening.
And that no one has heard of, until you trigger the memory. So actually, the apparel business is a really big business in the United States. So the average person spends about $1,100 a year on clothing, and has about 67 garments and 7 pairs of shoes. I'm sure the ladies in the room own many more than that. And then it's over a $380 billion business. And of that, for the in the U.S., the zipper market is about 4.5 billion pieces. So it's about 14 zippers per capita. So quite a few zippers that you're using every day in your clothing. YKK's annual zipper production, in order to meet that demand globally, is the equivalent to about 1.2 million miles. In other words, we could circle the globe 50 times with the zippers that YKK produces annually. However, and this is a big however, the last statistic here, in the United States, the percent of clothing that is sold here that is imported is 97.3%. So to put that another way, U.S. apparel production accounted for only 2.7% of the U.S. market as of 2015. So it wasn't always this way, though. If you look at this chart here, when the YKK plant opened in Macon, Georgia in 1974, we were manufacturing 4 types of zippers, mostly for apparel and bags. And basically what we did was we went out into the market and tried to sell those zippers that we were manufacturing. At the time, there were over 59 jeans manufacturers located here in the Southeast, and that was one of the reasons why our plant opens in Macon. And for many years, we experienced very steady growth. But then almost seemingly overnight, the world changed. A lot of the apparel brand manufacturers started to produce their products outside of the United States. At the same time, American workers could not compete with workers in other countries due to much lower wages that they earned. And also, almost overnight, those 59 jeans manufacturers just up and left, no longer located in the United States. So this didn't make a huge amount of difference to YKK globally. After all, we actually do business in 71 different countries around the world, and we will do business wherever our customers are located. So our customers, of course, are the apparel manufacturers. However, this was terrible news for YKK USA. So what we had to do was we had to completely change the way that we market. And that decision, had to be made pretty quickly. So, gone were the days where we were just manufacturing a certain type of zipper and going out and trying to find somebody to use it. What we had to do was instead try to think about which manufacturers were likely to stay here in the United States and not move overseas, and then find a way to market to them so that they will use our products, and therefore we can preserve our business here in the United States and all of those jobs in Macon, Georgia. So what we did was we established industry leaders in different industries that we thought were likely to stay here. So some examples, the jeans and pants industry, outdoor, the government, military, safety, automotive, medical. And those industry leaders became subject matter experts in how our products could be used in their products. And also we would partner with those industries in order to try to find out what what their needs were and to develop products together with them to meet their needs. And so today we're much more likely, for example, to work with the David Clark Company, who is designing a new helmet for Boeing's Starliner spacesuit that uses a flexible, watertight, airtight zipper to hold the helmet onto the spacesuit. So that's one example. Many people think of us primarily in, jeans and bags, but we're spacesuits, automotive, and all kinds of applications you probably couldn't even imagine. And at the same time, globally, YKK was changing as well. So I mentioned that we are a global company, but originally, when we were first established, we were very localized. So we were operating in those 71 different countries, but each company in those countries were, working just with their local customers. These days, of course, we still work that way in many ways, but at the same time, we also have to think a lot more regionally and as well as globally. So you can see on this chart here, we're actually divided up into 6 different groups all over the world, and each of these groups focus on, again, the industries that are likely to stay within their region. So I mentioned to you already about North and Central America, focusing on like high function industries and sports industry, whereas EMEA, so Europe and Africa, is focusing on luxury fashion, luxury apparel, because that's where that business is primarily located. China and Asia focuses on the fast fashion industry, and Japan focuses both on apparel but also on the high function category, as does the United States. The other thing that we did was in 1997 we established the Global Marketing Group, and this what this enables us to do is to think about how we're marketing on a global level. So a lot of our customers who are the brand holders are located here in the United States, but if they wanted to produce their products somewhere else, like in Asia, they would need to contact all the different YKKs around the world, YKK Bangladesh, YKK China, YKK Pakistan, to work with them in those countries. But what this enabled us to do was for them to have one contact in the United States, and then that person is charged with trying to figure out how to make their business work in countries all over the world. So we actually have about 50 global apparel companies who are taking advantage of that, and we're the only fastening products group globally that can offer this on a global basis. Okay. And actually, we've also diversified quite a bit outside of just the zippers. Many of you think that we just produce zippers, but actually, within the fastening side, we've produced a lot of different products, including hook and loop fasteners and plastic notions and buckles and snaps and buttons. And also, many of you may not realize we also have a very large architectural products business as well. And what that produces are curtain wall for high-rise buildings, entrances, sun controls, and also doors and windows for residential use. We make all of our own machinery in-house, so our manufacturing and engineering group supports both of these businesses, and we think that that's a really great selling point for us as well. And the architectural products business has also focused their marketing in very much the same way that on the apparel side, in the sense that they're really thinking about how can they add value to their customers, and how can they best service their needs. So the customer on the architectural products side of the business is the glazing contractors that provide the glass that goes into the windows, as well as architects. So in particular, they've tried to focus their 2 brands, the ProTech brand, which is hurricane and blast mitigation windows, and then the Energy Facade brand, which is energy efficient building solutions. That has done well, very well here in the United States, because they've been able to meet the needs that were not being met by the other products that were available on the market. Our marketing is very much done on a one-to-one basis, very close relationships with customers. However, that's not to say that we don't have any opportunities within the digital marketing space. And if you have a chance, I especially recommend that you get online onto YouTube and check out the I Am an Architect campaign that was done by our YKK AP group. And what they have done was tried to create an online space specifically targeted to architects, because if the architect is interested in our products, they're much more likely to spec that into their designs and hopefully get our products into their buildings. buildings, but they're just creating a space where architects can gather and talk to each other and enjoy a couple funny videos, while they're at it, that shows them how much that we understand what their job is like. On the fastening side, we have a campaign that's going on right now that's just trying to get individual consumers to understand that the zipper that is found in their clothing actually will make a difference when they're purchasing it. So we have a couple of Japanese-style animation videos that have done very well, with over 13 million views on the first one and up to 587,000 views on the second rendition. So we are trying to focus, even though we are we're primarily a B2B company, we do try to target the end user as well, and that will be a challenge for us going in the future. Thank you.
Let's take a look at a little bit of just basic numbers. We have 7 days a week, pretty basic. We've got 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes in a day. As we break out our day, you wind up with about 8 hours of sleep, 9 hours of work, depending probably in this room. A few people a little bit more, maybe 18 hours of work, we're not really sure. We have about an hour and a half of eating and drinking. We've got about 2 hours of leisure and hanging out. We've got about an hour or so of household activities, again, some people in here more or less. And probably about an hour or so of caring for others. With that takes you to about 23 hours in your day. So what we wind up with now is 1 hour left, 60 minutes, and of that 60 minutes, you have about 3 minutes as a marketer to capture somebody. And with that, with the barrage of messages that everyone is getting here, you wind up with about 5 seconds to grab someone's attention. And with that, at retail, as you probably know, and everyone here knows, you probably have about 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. So we're not talking about a lot of time here. But with that, a unique stat for you. How many people have a phone in front of them right now? Average number, somewhere between 50 hours and 55 hours a week, we are in front of a screen, if not a mobile phone. That's a bit of a game changer. So we have the ability to put brand impression, strategy, and marketing, and change that emotional element 50 hours of your day. 50 hours of your week, sorry. That's a lot of time. And we have the ability to do that globally. And I don't think there's a marketer up here who's going to tell you that the global ability to reach people on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis, on their terms, on a one-on-one basis, on a strategy and marketing standpoint, has kind of been the game changer in the industry. Now, it's a very generic, very cliche term. Think globally, act locally. However, the ability of technology, of social media, of communications, of reach really makes that more importantly. Technology with AI, with chatbots that we're incorporating every day now, give our brands an ability to communicate in an entirely different way than they did a year ago even. And the technology side of that, whoever's going into the industry, whoever is looking to market a brand, develop a program, that's a key component to it. Now, as an overall level, as a company, we're a strategy company, right? While we have marketing in our name, we're truthfully a strategy company. We get brought in by CEOs, COOs, CMOs, presidents of federations to focus on how do we build a program, how do we move numbers, how do we grow revenue. Sometimes that's tickets sold, sometimes that's people in seats, sometimes that's votes that are counted, right? But at the end of the day, it's not just marketing, it's how do you get people, for lack of a better expression, to sit down, stand up, and sing along. It really is indeed moving the emotional component of it. We are a fairly innovative company. We've been in the sports, entertainment, consumer product space for 9+ years now. We boast some of what I would argue are some of the best global brands between those categories. We've worked on everything from World Cup of hockey to World Cup of soccer to major campaigns to major product releases to major movies. Creative. We have an in-house creative team, and when we talk about brand and we talk about global branding and global brand protection as well, which I know you're going to talk about in a little bit, part of that also goes to how do you craft the brand and how do you control that brand in each and every market. It's not enough just to present a brand out there and say, okay, here's my logo and here's my graphic package. What does that mean, and how does it look, and how does it feel in each and every area? It's not enough just anymore to put it out there as a simple element, but it has to interact, and you have to be able to know what that brand is, the feelings of that brand, and how it communicates each and every day. It's a living, breathing kind of organism, for lack of a better expression there, in that it really has to sell, right? Having something that just comes in, or I should say that we're pushing out to someone, isn't enough. We're involved every day right now in bringing U.S. brands internationally, especially to Asia right now, and vice versa. And one of our big programs is how do you translate those components of what it means to, let's say, a team in Italy that's going to Asia. How do you convey what those messages are, and how do you get people to buy into that? Fair amount of experience between, I think, 4 Transformers movies, a couple Batman movies, you name the number of product launches. We have an incredibly experienced team internationally now as well. And we work, as I mentioned, with some of the top brands in the field in this. Google Express is a great example for us. Google, which is a fairly decent-sized company, they may know a little about marketing and messaging, came to us as far as launching Google Express. And we were able to turn around a fantastic program in multiple different markets very, very quickly, because they come in and they use us very much like a special forces team. From a design standpoint, again, we've worked with countless top brands. This is a unique example of Transformers. And the Transformers wanted to look at their brand, spoke to us. We looked at their consumer products matrix and said, wait, 51% of your buying audience is actually female. And we've ignored an entire market. But your female audience doesn't want to buy what your 16-year-old boy does or your 9-year-old boy does. And we created an entire fashion program for them that's launching and apparently pre-sold rather well at this point. Likewise, we do work with government agencies. It's always a very interesting program. In the last year alone, we've worked with the United States Postal Service, we've worked with the Department of Defense, we worked with the National Park Service. We'll thank Coca-Cola because you were one of our centennial sponsors. By the way, founded at the same time as Coca-Cola, I believe, around that time frame. Of how do you transform, and here's a good example of how you use brand and how you use creativity and design to help transform a brand and turn it into something completely different than what you'd expect it to be. InBev, we work with globally as well. InBev, which has countless beverage brands, Budweiser, Bud Light, Lime-A-Rita. Lime-A-Rita is an interesting one, I admit. But how do you market in different cultures, in different languages, in different markets? And that's one of our big fortes. We touch on sports. We do have sports as a fairly sizable piece of our business. There's nothing that translates across borders, across emotions like sports. Especially in this audience, countless Asian investors have bought European soccer teams. We very often are getting a call from a strategic side of how do you come in, how do you change the culture of the team, how do you build the investment structure of it. Well, we've often gone in and run a team for several months on behalf of the ownership groups and help develop that. Also, from a cultural standpoint, how do you position foreign ownership coming in? That's an entirely another brand program. So while we discuss very often the marketing side of it, very often for us, it's also the strategy behind it. It's not pretty pictures. It's not let's just launch a campaign. It's how do we create a program, and I think it's the shift in marketing, right? It's how do you take a campaign and deliver real ROI on it and change the culture of a program. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about the importance of protecting your trademarks, which are also known as brands. First of all, I think it's important to understand what exactly is a trademark. A trademark can be a name, a logo, a design. It can even be a sound or a color or a smell. As long as it serves to distinguish your products and services from your competitors and identifies the source of those products, it can serve as a trademark. Some well-known examples of more creative trademarks are the Robin's Egg iconic Tiffany blue that you see for boxes of jewelry. You automatically think of the high-end jeweler Tiffany's, and they own a trademark for that color blue. The Coca-Cola word mark is a famous trademark. Even the Coca-Cola glass iconic bottle is protected by trademark. Some very well-known logos would be the golden arches. And then, as I mentioned, Hasbro has recently filed a U.S. trademark application to protect, yes, the scent of Play-Doh. And scent is one of the most powerful marketing tools because it automatically triggers memories. So it's a pretty impressive trademark to own. And then, of course, taglines or slogans like "Just Do It" are also very strong trademarks. So why is it important to develop and protect your trademarks? Because trademarks can powerfully influence consumer decisions and provide effective, intelligent, emotional communication messages about your services and products in the blink of an eye. So, for example, the iconic green mermaid logo. My 4-year-old son loves Starbucks vanilla scones. Don't ask me. And whenever he sees the green iconic logo, he can't read, automatically, "Mommy, I want a Starbucks scone." So that is some powerful marketing right there. Also, it creates a valuable, tangible asset for your company that you can sell. And finally, it also creates business goodwill and a reputation for your company. For example, when you buy a Godiva chocolate, you expect the top quality taste of chocolate. And then when you buy, for example, a Lindt chocolate, it's a different quality, not necessarily lesser, but what you come to associate with that company. My clients often come to me and are very excited about a new brand or idea they have, and I want to protect this trademark. And I have to explain to them, not all trademarks are created equal. Trademarks operate on what's called a spectrum of distinctiveness. So the more unique the trademark, the stronger it is. And starting from the weakest are generic words, and that would be, for example, carpet or podium. You can't protect the actual name of the product. That is never protectable as a trademark. And then the next level are descriptive trademarks, which are the weakest level of trademarks. They can be protected as trademarks, but you have to show that these trademarks have acquired what's called secondary meaning. That means that consumers, when they see your trademark, they automatically think of your company as a brand. They don't associate the trademark necessarily with the descriptive terms. An example would be American Airlines. Also, an example I'm working on right now is my client Church's Chicken has a trademark for a sauce called purple pepper. And in order to obtain a registration, we have had to argue that it is acquired distinctiveness. So when I counsel my clients on protecting descriptive marks, I explain, we may be able to register it, but it's going to cost you a lot more money and it's going to be a lot more time consuming. So the way that we're able to register something descriptive like purple pepper is to show that consumers, through declarations, affidavit, they now associate that with the Church's brand. And then the next level of protection is a suggestive trademark. For example, Burger King. It suggests something about the underlying product or service, but it does not directly describe it. And then you have arbitrary trademarks, which are very strong trademarks, and those are real words in the English language, but they have no association. They're totally arbitrary in connection with the product or service. Think of Apple for computers. And then finally, you have fanciful or coined made-up terms like Haagen-Dazs, which are the top level of strength of trademarks. The problem with the arbitrary and fanciful trademarks, of course, from a branding perspective, is when you have a new product, it's hard to associate the new name with that product. That's why a lot of times there's this push-pull with picking a descriptive mark and a fanciful mark, because a descriptive mark will directly describe the product or service, but the trade-off is it's weaker in terms of trademark protection. And then when you're selecting a trademark, it's very critical to do what's called a trademark clearance search. And that's where, as a trademark attorney, I would come in and I would search through trademark applications and registrations to determine if anyone had prior rights to you. As I explained to my clients, it's a level of due diligence. Before you launch a new brand, it makes sense to invest to make sure that you own the rights to that mark. Because should you forego a trademark search, in a few years you may receive a cease and desist letter from someone that has prior rights. Worse yet, you may receive a trademark opposition or cancellation proceeding, canceling your trademark registration rights, or face a lawsuit. So there's many different ways to search a mark, and especially if you're, with today's global economy, launching a global brand, I often have to do international trademark clearance searches, because just because it's available in the US doesn't mean it will be available in China. A well-known case of that is the Apple iPhone trademark. Apple was not able to obtain the registration in China for iPhone because there was a prior registration. So it's critical to do your trademark clearance searches before you launch a new brand. And then I wanted to talk about the value associated with the trademark. Again, I had mentioned you can actually sell your trademark through an assignment. If you sell your company, you want to sell the underlying intellectual property rights and the goodwill associated with that mark, or you can license it for royalties. But one recent estimate has found that 1/3 of corporate value is associated with the brand. And the world's most valuable brand, Apple, was recently estimated to be worth more than $154 billion. So what are the benefits of trademark registration? Number one, it allows you to use the R in the circle registration symbol that I'm sure you've seen on all kinds of marketing campaigns. And that symbol puts parties on notice that you own trademark registered rights in a mark. It's also very powerful if you do face an infringement and you have to send a cease and desist letter, because I find that parties respond a lot more quickly when they see that you own a registered trademark. It acts as a deterrent to infringement, because once you have a registration, if someone files a trademark application, for example, in the U.S. with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, a trademark examiner will refuse to register an application for a confusingly similar mark. So it also protects you in terms of the register. It gives you exclusive rights in that mark. Now, trademark rights are territorial, so in the U.S., it gives you the right to claim trademark rights nationwide, even if you're only using the mark in, for example, Georgia, which is a very, very powerful and effective way to prevent others from using your mark if they're in a different area of the country. It also grants you the right to sue in federal court and potentially obtain treble damages or attorney's fees. And if there's counterfeiting, you're allowed to recover statutory damages. And finally, you can record your registrations with U.S. Customs and prevent the importation of counterfeits.